So February 2025, it's really a month, in my view, of the beginning of the year in a way, because by the end of February 2025, we have two planets that have been retrograde all year stationing direct. And that is Jupiter in Gemini, which stations direct at the beginning of the month, and then Mars in Cancer, of course, stationing direct at the end of the month. And so one way to think about this month is just pivoting into the action that will define the rest of the year, and sloughing off and working through these processes we've been undergoing of review and analytics and waiting to basically get going. It's go time, you might say, here in 2025, February 2025 being the month that sends that green light to press on, press forward, and go, and get ready to get into the rest of the year. So we're going to break that down here in this video, February 2025. Stay with me. This is S.J. Anderson. Great to be with you and be diving in to another month of astrology. Let's go. It's exciting. Hey guys, what's going on? S.J. Anderson here, doing a live stream this month to dive into the month ahead of astrology, February 2025. Welcome to this live stream. Welcome to the channel. And I'm really happy to be with you. We're just going to run through this stuff. Okay. I got some slides prepared. Hey, everyone. And, looking forward to just, kind of grappling with this stuff. The core theme, I think, here in February is maybe head versus heart, or head and heart. And what I mean by that is the idea of the intellectual and the logical juxtaposed with, and sort of the dual track or competing with, the intuitive nature of reality, inarticulable, the feeling states and all of those things. That's really what we've got, kind of dual tracks here in February amongst some of these other themes. And you'll see this will make sense as I get through this slide. Do I offer mentorship? I offer on my Patreon ongoing relationship with the ideas that we explore together over there on Patreon. So you can always email me too, and I'm happy to take questions via email if you want to have more specific questions there. But thanks for the question, Lila. Okay. We're just gonna dive in. I'm gonna look at the chat some. I'll answer questions when I see them, but let's just dive in. I'm gonna kind of thoroughly work through this so it can kind of function as a video for others who want to watch it later. But right out of the gate this month, 1st February, 1633 UT, you've got the Venus-Neptune conjunction. You see there, 27 degrees in Pisces. Same day, 2142 later that day, you have Venus-Rahu conjunction, or North Lunar Node. And then, so that's the first of the month, this Saturday coming up here, and, tomorrow. Tomorrow. And then you have Friday, so a week from today, you have the Neptune-Rahu conjunction and the Neptune-North Lunar Node conjunction. So this first week of the month is all about the, February Piscean faded triggers and yearnings of this pileup, this very, very rare pileup. The Neptune-Rahu conjunction, Venus will leave Aries. We'll talk about in a second before that. But, I just want you guys checking in with your soul. What is the nature of being? How can we even answer that question, right? We have to engage that question with contemplation and with, awareness, bringing awareness to these deeper parts of ourselves. And there's really not much more to say about it. I mean, the soul and things like the soul is something we can only experience, and I think when the deeper we go, the more compassion we end up having, the more empathy we can have from others. Because I think it's hard when you see your true nature and you realize, hey, I don't even know what's going on. I mean, how can I even judge anybody else who does know what's going on, So I feel like that's part of the Piscean empathy and compassion, is that the more we see, the more we kind of release into the sense of not being in control, and the less we want to try to dominate other people or something like this. So I'm looking for those as themes, compassion, dreamy love. Yearning is my favorite keyword for Pisces. It's just the idea that there's something more and there's something beyond what we see. And that's ultimately a very beautiful thing. And love is about that, right? I mean, if you've ever been in love, it makes no sense. Why am I obsessed with this other person? Why am I desiring to risk it all for this, feeling and this attachment that I have for another? So it's a bit delusional, but at the same time, it's that delusion has payout, right? There's payoff when we just kind of love no matter the cost as a value. there's certain things you can only access through that. So anyhow, deeper patterning, triggering fate, right? That's the North Node component. We're tapped into patterns of histories in our lives, like these unconscious patterns that somehow we can't get rid of. That's what the nodes are here to show us. And I just want to say that you might want to look for that, releasing, just becoming aware of your patterning. And that might pave the way for, greater meaning and, your destiny to emerge. Sometimes we're in the same ruts because there's a reason. We have to confront it. We have to face it. And I think that's a big part of the theme with the Saturn and Pisces. We'll get to that later, but we're facing stuff that might not be easy. And that's a big theme this month as well. It's been a big theme for a while, but as Saturn gets pinged and triggered by all of these planets here with it, you might kind of think about it in that way. So let's keep shifting here. Next slide. I want to push through. I don't want to make this too long, but we just go with what we got to go with. So also on the 7th, this is the same moment of Neptune and the North Lunar Node together, 28 degrees of Pisces. How our ideals merge with destiny. The nodes are very much about kind of the true purpose of our lives. That shows itself often in key moments or key events, and the nodes can often time or trigger that, where it's like, wow, this is what I'm here for. This is really what this is. This incarnation, right, of my beingness. Wow, this is what I came here to do. These are the kind of feelings that you get with the lunar nodes. And so to have Neptune with it, that North Lunar Node, I think we can think about spiritual fate or the purpose of our being at some deeper level. And I had more here. Let's see here. Graceful surrender to higher guidance. I have discerning illusion from reality, but I think I'm focused more on like true reality, right? I mean, we live in an illusion is my spiritual belief. It's all just the material construction. And we have to kind of reach for what's beyond. And I think it's a beautiful month to do that, particularly right here, the first week of February with all this activation, Pisces, North Node, the Moon, Neptune, and the Venus there earlier. But again, themes of interconnectedness, intuition, and then I was saying here, difficult to articulate. That's of the nature of Pisces. It's a mute sign, and it's a feeling basis. So I wouldn't put too much pressure on yourself to try to articulate if that's not what's coming here for you. It's more about releasing, emoting, creating, expressing, just feeling, dreaming, these types of themes. And I want to say these are very, very rare times, you all, because the last time we had Venus stationing direct in Pisces, or even Venus just in Pisces with Neptune, Saturn, and the North Lunar Node all together, 1523. So we're talking about 500 years ago. The last time you had this particular conglomeration of planets. The last time before that, 53 AD. So, I mean, these are rare moments to kind of dream and feel into the kind of true nature beyond the veil, you might say, yearning for what's beyond the veil, trying to feel into that or contour that. Big theme here in February, and quite rare, okay, for all of our collective energetic. Here's just some of those events from 1523, and this is from Wikipedia. Yes, we're absolutely blessed. I mean, the life is a beautiful gift. I think that's a fundamental truth in terms of my worldview. And I want to, every moment of every day, if I can just keep that in the forefront, what the gift that we've been given to incarnate here and to experience this dream or this reality or whatever it is, the gratitude. And I think that's a huge part of the Piscean, as Jupiter is the domicile lord of Pisces. The idea is that there's the gift of life, this precious gift we have, and I think that alone can sometimes just motivate us or help us endure, the pains that also come with life. But so you had Portuguese battling in Yemen. So Yemen's been a huge theme, right, the last few years and even into this year. That was happening in 1523 with Europe and Yemen, battling there. All the New World stuff that was going on. I put that in quotes because obviously it's not a new world for the people already living there, but this concept of exploring, that's a very Piscean concept. Defining the headlines in 1523. This is one I'm really interested in, is the Protestant Reformation in Germany and in Europe. There was new frontiers of yearning, right? It's the idea of spiritual boundaries being dissolved. And I'm going to come to that later. But I think the Protestant Reformation kind of holds a key for this moment in time. There were some assassinations in Persia, which is now Iran. Of course, we have all that meddling in the current context with, Western meddling there. And I just, it's like a brief moment here. Like, what are the new worlds we're exploring collectively. And obviously there's AI, nature of consciousness, all of that research that's being done. AI can unlock studies, like they're communicating with dolphins, I mean, and we know their language now in new ways. So there's this like idea of we're exploring through new connection, and we're seeing these deeper realities because we're able to explore in these new ways. And big part of our moment in time, exchanging of culture through media. I just think that continues to be a theme every year. I mean, I can go to my phone and talk to people in China right now, and it'll translate, and I can make friends all over the world. I mean, we live in a very much a golden age for this kind of global interconnection where we can explore and learn about people and places and histories way more than we've ever had. I was just reading about the history of North Macedonia here in the Balkans, former part of Yugoslavia, then they declared independence. But each region of the world has its own rich history, and we live in a golden age of being able to, in a one moment, pull up and learn so much about a place and many places. And so I think that's part of this kind of Piscean idea of connecting globally. UFO I put there just because that's in vogue right now. Everybody talking about UFO, and we'll see what that becomes. But I just threw it out there because that would be literally interconnected with maybe new beings or beings that we heretofore haven't exchanged with, kind of thing. Okay, this is what I wanted to talk about with the new books idea, because in 1523, so Martin Luther published a Das Alte Testament Deutsch. So I know I butchered that, but it was a translation, I believe, of the Torah into German. This was a big part of what the Reformation was. And then you had also this year a French translation, Nueva Testament. That's another butcher, but New Testament into French. I'm not going to try to even pronounce his name, but the idea was that the vernaculars, you had these texts that were worshipped and seen as like the truth, brought into the vernacular, which just means the local language. So more people had access to engaging with ideas. And that was happening in 1523. Last time we had this pile up again, Neptune, North Lunar Node, Saturn, and Venus. And so we're seeing that now, I think, how much we have the ability to translate and find new truths with the tools that we have available to us, even with AI translation. I mean, you can translate immediately and make things immediately accessible to you in terms of in terms of learning things. So, okay, let me keep going here. This Piscean stuff, David Lynch, okay, we got to stop again. I know I talked about him in a recent video, but I mean, he's just kind of heavily weighing on this whole moment in time. And I just feel like the fact that he left this world when you have this arch Piscean, grand Piscean moment, given that was his nature. He was like this pure artist of the surreal and of the symbolic. I mean, he basically embodied Pisces in a sort of a pure form. And that, he leaves us, and now we have this Piscean, pile up to process what it means to be in the realm of the symbolic and the creative. In the wake of his loss, it's like those themes are brought right to the forefront. And so he triggered this, and we're, I don't know about you, but I've been watching a bunch of his movies in the last few days. Mulholland Drive is the masterpiece. Okay. I mean, a lot of people like a lot of his different films, but Mulholland Drive is the one that is really the masterpiece, in my opinion. Watch it, because it's a perfect gateway into a bunch of the themes. And I'm going to be talking about in this video, Mulholland Drive against the backdrop of some of the themes this month, because I think it's too apt of an analogy or metaphor. Dark Piscean, that might be Saturn and the nodes. The light Piscean, Venus and Neptune, if you want to make that distinction. We're kind of getting it all this month, optimism and connection, and yet as well the kind of deeper pains that are part of creativity and part of the truth of life. That something at the core of this incarnation is suffering, right? Buddhists, of course, note that, but that's a part of this month as much as anything. And okay, so now let's shift. We're just going to keep going. I'm going to move through all of this here. And, Venus and Aries wake-up caller, right? That starts on the 4th of February. So it'll be this coming Tuesday. Venus will enter Aries. And I think that's going to wake us up at some level. It'll be the first planet in a fire sign since I think Mercury was in Sagittarius earlier in January, right at the beginning, other than the moons every 28 days in fire signs. But just know there's going to be some wake up call energy here. I mean, this month does get quite active, and in spite of or notwithstanding that Piscean moment and all the water energy. So Venus will go from Pisces, dreamy waters, into Aries, fiery enthusiasm. I always think with Venus and Aries, it's just like taking the risk, right? Asserting desire, possibly too fast or too much. And that's what you have to watch for. It's like if something is just, it's like it's too much, you can't stop. You can't prevent yourself from embracing it. And that's not always the best strategy. It's great for having the passion, right? And having the passion for pleasures and knowing what you desire and knowing what's beautiful and going for that. So we love it in that way, but it's an energy that needs to be balanced against the risks of kind of rushing headlong into something. What is it? Fools rush in where angels fear to tread, this idea. So watch for that, here in February. And it's even more relevant given that there's a retrograde of Venus now. Venus will stay in Aries, but it stops on the 1st of March. And we kick off next month with the retrograde station of Venus. And then it comes back, and it's April 18th here when it stations direct. And so it's literally getting out ahead of ourselves with the Venus retrograde cycle. And then combined with that fitting the symbolism of Venus and Aries, getting to fast into something. I think we really must be watchful for that here this month. But what do I have here? This other delineation. What do we know through the means of the feeling and the intuition, the Piscean? Okay, we're going to have to return back to that. It's almost like we wake up and we get going and it's like, nope, you got to go back to sleep. You got to fall back asleep and go back to that dream that you've been getting a lot of information from, and finish the process of being with that dreamscape and the messages delivered in that dreamscape. And so here are some of those dates: the dance between Aries and Pisces in 2025, Mercury and Venus. You've got all kinds of dates here, but I just want to point out the retrograde stations and the direct stations. Actually, and Venus's entry into Aries, here it is for February. Mercury enters Aries in 3 March. Venus comes back to Pisces on the 27th of March. Mercury comes back to Pisces on the 30th of March. So that would be a theme in March, as we go to the Aries, back to the Piscean. And that's why I just wanted to lay these dates out here. We're really not done with this Aries-Pisces dance of planets traversing this boundary 1, 2, 3 times, really until February 2026, when Saturn will enter Aries on Valentine's Day for good. So it's Venus and Mercury, they go over the boundary 3 times. It's Neptune and Saturn, they go over the boundary 3 times. The North Lunar Node just went over that boundary in January. So you see how this becomes a dominant theme of the whole year. And it's the initiations of active power, outer world, building, making, doing, Aries. And then it's this thing that's like, okay, no, there's this interconnected oneness, and there's this dream, and there is the empathy that's required for all of life. And without that, you can't initiate. You need to integrate that Piscean. I think that's maybe one way to say it. Okay, here, just found out Martin Luther was a staunch anti-Semite, more strange resonances with the present. Yeah, for sure. There's, those are huge themes all over every media outlet right now. And, I don't know what his story was around this time in terms of, I know there's a text he published that's kind of a notorious text on that topic. And that would be interesting to see the publication timetables vis-a-vis, this phase. Saturn in Aries on Valentine's Day. Wow, sounds interesting. Yeah, that would be a big, huge shift as we get the conservative Saturn forced into the very youthful and passionate and active Aries, and how that can be a little bit discombobulating. I wonder how much new love or fresh kind of resurgence of kind of love, and maybe we're going to come out of the collective, malaise of the apps and how everybody's sort of addicted to these phones. I think there's a lot of that in 2026, and even this year, where people are going to kind of come back to the real world in a way, because we're just tired of the digital addiction. I think there's some of that's going to be happening. I've been seeing stories about how dating apps have gone by the wayside, that people are tired of those apps. And so I'm just thinking that might be a part of that, where you're kind of coming into some fresh energy. The structures that we bring into Saturn and Aries aren't going to survive it. Some of those aren't going to make it. And social media, we might say, is quite Piscean, because it's a dream. and it's not real in a way, right? And so there's an illusion component, but it makes you feel good. So, okay, so let me see. Hey, take care, Michelle. Yeah, watch it on replay. I'll put some timestamps in later so you can kind of elegantly glide through these topics. All right, let's keep going. This is a scene from Mulholland Drive. It's a really famous scene. The cowboy is a character who's kind of like a godlike character, but he comes in and says, "Hey, pretty girl, time to wake up." And one of the main characters then wakes up into kind of a real life. And this might be the idea that Venus is going to have to wake up here and kind of launch into more of this faster energy, more active place for Venus. And Venus isn't as much about that. Venus wants to kind of settle into the beauty. And I think Mulholland Drive is a quite apt analogy, because there's a question of dreams within dreams. Some people say even after Betty wakes up, it's still a dream, and that's Venus back into Pisces. And I think we're grappling with this. What is the dream? What is the waking state? And it's not always easy to tell. And we're going to have a long process trying to answer that question into 2026. One final thing, remember that it's an 8-year star point cycle, and that gives you clues in your personal life and for our world. So Venus was last retrograde in this part of the star point cycle. There's 5 points on that star. And that was back in 2017, which was Trump's first term. And so there's this kind of repetition already with this Venus star point cycle, because you have, you're back to this idea of this same person and this same energy of like, wow, this is like really quite different, and just from the political angle. And it's sort of surreal, isn't it? It's like this again, this is happening again. Is it like a loop that we're having to go back through? And that's often what astrology, when you see these kind of literal loops, it does evoke this idea of, what is this? Is this even real, this reality we're in? Am I even, where am I, kind of theme. So, and in 2001, when Mulholland Drive was released, it was the same Venus star point cycle as 2025. Venus didn't go back into Pisces in 2001. It was only in Aries, but it's that same fifth node, or one of the 5 nodes of the Venus star point cycle. So that's why I also wanted to use that in this video to, because we're resonating with the Venus cycle with this work of art. Awaken a dream, trying to be awake in a dream, and I think so much is just intention with Pisces. It's like the intention to seek God, the intention to try to be awake, the intention to try to answer the questions, even if they're hard to answer. It's like, I'm just going to try to be awake. Is this awake, or what else? Show me, kind of thing. These kind of surrenders. Show me, universe. I want to know kind of energy. I think that's very Neptunian. It's very Piscean. It's very nodal, North Lunar Node, and very Saturn, because Saturn is about a foundation. It's about finding a foundation. So, okay. Now we're shifting out of that whole part of this talk, all right? The whole Piscean first part of the month, okay? And we're now shifting into this next main theme of February, and it starts pretty early as well. Mercury trines Jupiter, 3rd of February, 2151 UTC. You see it. Jupiter here, trine Mercury. Actually, that chart is, it's right here, 11 degrees 16, 11 degrees 16. So they're trining here. The next day, 4 February, only a few hours later, 9:40 UT, Jupiter stations direct. So you see Mercury is here trining Jupiter and supporting it as Jupiter is laser-like still getting ready to launch forward. So it's not only the direct station of Jupiter is an auspicious moment, it's that its ruling planet Mercury is giving it that nudge of that trine of support. And I think it's a really auspicious kick start to February. And this is why I was saying there's the dreamscapes, all those themes we just talked about, running simultaneous with this very air element clarity of forward movement. And so it's a kind of dissonant mix of energies. We might be out in the world like really good at our language skills and our intellect, and then we come home and we're like, what just happened? I have no idea. We'll be dancing between the Piscean and the water element, the air element, and the Gemini and Aquarian. But just the quick things about Jupiter direct station, resurgence of growth and opportunity. Everybody check your Gemini sector as Jupiter's stationing direct now. You might get answers about this story of Jupiter and Gemini, May 2024, June 2025. You might have some breakthroughs here about just how to enjoy this final run through Gemini that we get for the first half of 2025 with Jupiter. What is the air element? Thought, travel, words, education, intellectual pursuits, optimism, faith in the future, insightful communication, right? Insight is Jupiter, communication, Gemini, sharing of ideas, but you're sharing, you're communicating, but big ideas, sharing your hope and optimism, articulating it, putting words to it, putting it in the form of language and words. A renewed sense of purpose and direction may be related to efforts that were previously stalled. I mean, a retrograde is a time where stuff sometimes is waiting. I mean, it's just, I see it all the time, every week, or more. It's just, you're waiting on something, the direct station happens, and you're not waiting on that anymore. And then you're resolving it. And so we all get that here for February. Jupiter stations direct with Mercury trining it to kind of push it or make it even more of a forward movement breakthrough in terms of the thought and the idea and the intellect. Okay, let's keep going. Let's see here. Mercury, Cazimi, and Aquarius. This is also on the 9th of February. So you can see the air element strongly accentuated at the beginning of the month. You have Mercury trine Jupiter, Jupiter station direct, and now you have the Cazimi of Mercury and Aquarius. That means Mercury and the Sun perfect their conjunction. Very auspicious moment for Mercury. Mercury is purified, and you can have the pure, positive Mercury. So again, there's ideas of breakthrough and download about insight and innovative thinking. That's Mercury and Aquarius. Shifts in perspective, new solutions. That's all Aquarian, innovative solutions. Brilliant ideas, unusual, fresh ideas or conversations. It's a favorable time for the, breakthroughs from brainstorming or just mental formations that come through that are important right here on 9 February. And so I think about how this relates to Jupiter, still in the degree of its direct station, still in a nice trine formation, that, excitement for the future, the newness of our world, but it's the logistical forward movement. It's like building out the structures we're going to rely on as we move into the year, and the ideas that are part of those structures, or how those ideas are structured, it may be a better way to say it. It's very much a great time to plan and note and intellectualize and get into the articulation of a vision and how it will, in a detailed way, be put into place for like long-term stability. We're talking about Aquarius. So, okay, so you see how that's happening. And so it's a beautiful air element first start of the month. And this are some of the news stories that I was seeing that are very much evocative of this. So the Stargate project, Trump touts 500 billion bid for AI dominance. That came out, by the way, the day that Pluto and the Sun met. The first time that Pluto and the Sun conjoined since Pluto's been in Aquarius. It's been 3 times Pluto's been there. This is the 3rd, but there's only 1 time that the Sun met Pluto so far, and that was this time. And on that day, they say, here's 500 billion for AI dominance. And that's a whole conversation I don't want to get too deeply into, but I mean, the idea is that is this really healthy for the society? Is this going to be more dystopian control? Some kind of, what's the Spielberg movie? That's the Philip K. Dick adaptation, Minority Report, where you've got these AIs that are kind of part of a control structure. That would be an Aquarian idea. Or is this going to be some innovative breakthrough? It's probably both, right? Like so many things, there's upsides, there's downsides. But that it happened with this air element accentuation, it just fits the themes of the moment. And of course, we saw DeepSeek released a week ago, completely, turned around the AI conversations, because DeepSeek was at least the official story, very cheaply trained. And there were some innovative breakthroughs in how they ran their model with something called reinforcement learning. And so it basically belies the notion that you need all this money. You can do it for really cheap with some new breakthroughs that DeepSeek did. So we're basically in a time of great unfoldment with the technology of our age and that cutting edge. And this is the time in the year where you have planets really accentuating the air element with transits through Aquarius, Mercury, Cazimi, Jupiter stationing direct in Gemini, etc. So just a few stories on my radar that fit these themes. Okay, let's keep going here. So this is the chart of the month. I mean, there's always some other charts too. This is like the only good chart, but it's one of the ones I wanted to highlight in this video. I've been in the habit of picking one chart for the month ahead. And this is when the moon is going to travel through Gemini, and it will meet Jupiter just after it stations direct. So this is the moon in Gemini, 6 February, and Jupiter stationed direct 2 days before. And so you get that first moon triggering this kind of renewed hope, optimism, moving forward, all of these things in this chart. just imagine, yeah, I mean, Uranus is moving into Gemini, and that will happen here. Let me, I realize I can do this. I can show these comments. So Astro, Stephanie, just imagine when Uranus moves into Gemini, 100%, because you'll have Pluto and Uranus in an air trine. And I think, I'm glad you mentioned this, because this month, with Gemini, Jupiter stationing direct in Gemini, it is a big preview. I mean, it's a huge preview of what's to come. And I think a lot of what Uranus and Gemini will bring is the table may be set for that here this month. Uranus enters Gemini July 2025. So that's going to be here like that. But, we're in realities that are being built this month that will then have another Uranian flash of brilliance and insight and delivery of the kind of lightning bolt of change that Uranus can bring. And I certainly think with the AI story, I mean, we haven't seen anything yet. By the time we get a year from now, it's going to be even more wildly embedded in our lives and wildly, effective and whatever it's going to end up doing. It's kind of cool to be alive. And so, okay, here it is, the 6th February chart. You've got the moon with Jupiter. What else do I have here? It is helping us clarify. It's the lunar trigger, right? The moon just triggers everything every day. It's triggering these other planets. And this is the moon triggering these themes of forward movement and optimism that we just talked about. Still trining Mercury and the sun, averse to Mars, and it squares Saturn. But if you get it before it perfects to Jupiter, as it's applying to Jupiter, which happens UTC, 21, 23 on 6 February. And before that, you're kind of protected from the Saturn square. So that's the idea here. But just one of the charts I like. If you want more analysis, you can go to my Patreon. I have this tier, lunar tier, where I offer a video every week where I just pick out some of the best moons and some of the themes of the week ahead. So if you're wanting that, that's available there. More of this kind of conversation. And there's other tiers. This one, I release videos over there, like short videos every few days. And that's on the lowest tier. You get all those videos. And then I do a live stream that's like a teaching practicum. That's on this tier. And then this tier is everything. And then also that weekly video. So anyhow, just a quick plug for that. I don't want to plug that too much, but there it is. So Minority Report was a blast. Have you seen Surrogates? I believe I have. I'd have to check on that. What actors are in that? And was that a British film made about 10 years ago with, maybe you can, I'll come back to that, but let's keep going. Peak air element moment. This is that full moon in Leo. You see it. And the reason why I'm calling it, it's like the climax of these air element themes we've just been describing, because this is a Leo moon. What rules Leo? Jupiter by triplicity, the sun by triplicity and domicile. So these rulers are right back into the air element. The sun, moon is aspecting Jupiter, moon is aspecting the sun, obviously a full moon. Mercury's still in the air element. Ceres there with Mercury. Pluto's still there. So this is a real peak of this kind of air element focus. And, we'll see what this brings. Full moons can be just these intense, sometimes climaxes of stories or energies that emerge. And there you go. Looking for that on the 12th of February to continue these themes. It's a very active moment too, because Venus is now in Aries, trining the moon in active Leo. So you got fire and air element, the so-called masculine elements. So this could be a very active part of our month. I think in February, that would be one. And you saw on the title of this live stream, it's like the year starts now. It's go time. These kinds of ideas. And you see that this full moon, it's embedded in this chart with sextile with the air and fire element, all very active outer world, Jupiter having just stationed direct. So anyhow, that's my little take on this full moon. Enjoy it, especially if you're feeling energy here in February and renewed, desire for action and movement. I think a lot of us are going to be feeling that. And this full moon will be kind of an accentuation of some of those energies. Yeah, Leo roar. We're going to get that roar of Leo. So, okay, let's keep going. Let's see where else we've got going on here. February 2025. Okay, we're now shifting into, this is kind of the final theme for the month, which is we're back to the water element, because towards the end of the month, you're going to see a lot of action with what I'm about to lay out. But basically, it's the trine between Saturn and Mars is this first aspect. This will be triggered. This perfects here. And then what's going to happen is Mercury is going to come in and trigger it all again. And so we've got to talk about this. What does it mean to have a malefic water trine as Mars is in building to its direct station on the 24th? And I think about, oh, let me go back here. Sorry, the emotional energy that can be challenged constructively, a malefic. And let me just say this about malefic. It's a label. It's just a category. It's like you can give it another name. The name isn't actually not as relevant, but it's a category of planets that those planets can tend to be some of the tougher themes. Okay. That's all it means. Saturn and Mars, their significations are, you pull up a text. Saturn is grief, sadness, loss, pain. Okay. That's part of its signification. Not the only thing, but Mars is like breakage and fighting and acrimony and all kinds of more extreme negative significations. But they also have good significations too. That's why I say it's just a label that captures some of those planetary energies. But I mean, we have to consider that that's what's happening here this month. And it's been happening for a long time, since September of last year when Mars entered Cancer. And so there's been this ongoing dance of kind of feeling our pain, feeling the depth of the reality of life and some of the rougher edges of our reality. That's been a huge part of, for months in our transiting sky. What February brings is the direct station of Mars and the perfection of the trine to Saturn, the second perfection they perfected earlier last year. But so what do I have here? If there is difficult inner emotions, this might be the time where we're kind of finally figuring out how to integrate those into our active selves. The best thing about pain is that we heal it, we see it, and then it doesn't cause us, it's not as painful. And sometimes it can even help us live well when we've dealt with and spent time with our pain and suffering. In fact, that's the only way. I have it here. You must face the true nature, even if it's tough. That's the only way in life. Okay, no pain, no gain, and many things in life. And I think this is the month where we're, finally maybe putting it together, like how to tend to our pain with care and sensitivity. How to kind of carry ourselves in the world with a grace and a nobility, and not running from pain, but owning it. It's like, yeah, I'm hurt. Okay, I'm broken, just like you, and it's okay. Life is still beautiful. To come back to that theme, life is still a loving, beautiful gift. We all have pain. We all carry our pain, and I think this is a moment here this month of processing that, and maybe hopefully having a healthier relationship to our inner, wounds as we move forward into the rest of the year. That's been the great opportunity here in 2025 and late 2024, is really getting real with our true depth of pain in our consciousness. The pain body is what Eckhart Tolle says, if you've read Eckhart Tolle's book. But he says we carry a pain body that's just part of our psyche, and the way we integrate it and heal it is we bring presence to it. And that is, again, a huge part of this moment of astrology and this whole season of astrology. It's just this month is the month that you have the malefic water trine perfecting. It's by sign still here till April 18th, when Mars will leave Cancer for good this cycle. And I think that tells us just how long and drawn out this has been. It gives us another piece of information about healing, is that it takes time to heal. You got to give ourselves time. You got to have patience with your woundedness and pain and suffering. There's no overnight cure. That's not what life is. It's just, you have to see it, be with it, share about it, talk about it, admit we don't know, and just slowly kind of rebuild ourselves. And it takes time. So remember, time is on your side too. If we're infinite beings, then ultimately we're going to win. But even if we're going through a longer process of healing right now, and obviously world events are crazy. This can apply to a lot of the events that have been around September up through now. But just know that, whatever you've been struggling with, either interpersonally or collectively, that's, you're right where you need to be to sort of feel through that. Here is the exact date of the trine, the next trine and the final water trine between Mars and Saturn. And that's going to be 5 April. So this is a longer process again, and look for April and into May before we really shift out into some new world. What we're going to be able to do, at least somewhat this year, is to take the depth of our processing and healing into some new situations this summer. And we'll be better off for having gone through this. We're going to get to apply our lessons here in the summer, when Saturn enters Aries, when Mars is in Leo, then clears shadow, then is in Virgo, when Venus clears shadow and enters Taurus in June. Like, there's some really great opportunities to kind of practice and apply what we've been integrating in terms of what we've been processing. So, okay, let me come back to some of these comments. Yeah, thanks for everybody for being here. I'm glad to do a live stream. You know, I do these kind of intermittently. Sometimes I'm just like, I'm going to do a live stream. So I'm glad I got to do it. It's great to connect with you this way. And let's see, serendipity, hard to imagine everything is a Pisces rising this month. You know, some of that is your first house, right? So you might want to focus on, you have full permission, any Pisces rising, to like focus on yourself and your self-work and your self-care. Like that's one thing I would offer to you there. Going to be unlike anything we know from before Pisces. Let me see here. Let me just keep going here. Don't forget to hit the like button. Thanks, Ali. Hi, nice to see you. Just, yeah, give me a like if you want to give me a like. They do help. They do help. Let's see, Talitha, Celtic goddess of hearth and home. Let me throw this here. Happy British Day. Happy British Day, everyone. That's Bresia. Happy Bresia's Day. Celtic goddess of hearth and home. That's cool. Time to reflect on the past year and look forward to the coming year. Yeah, that's cool. I like that. And we're building into that spring equinox too. And that can be the kickstart of the year. Remember, Pisces season, what starts this month when the sun enters Pisces. February and into March is always that time of maybe resting before the new year kicks off, just in terms of the astrological calendar. So I like that idea of reflecting here in February with Pisces energy and just getting into our inner states to prepare for the Aries activations that come with the spring equinox. Okay, let me keep going on here. Surrogates was a Bruce Willis, 2009. I haven't seen that one. I'll have to check it out. Feels relevant. The title already feels relevant, right? So yeah, I'll check that out. Let me just keep working through a few of these, and then we'll keep moving on. We're making good time, which is why I'm going to answer some of these, because I think there's only a few more slides, so I have some time to do this. Are you thinking about working with photon energy belt with astrology? No, I haven't thought about that, but I'm going to keep that note in my head, and maybe there'll be other people mentioning that, and there'll be some kind of synchronistic push to work with that. But I have not thought about working that. Tiger Lily, thanks, from Pennsylvania. Help that algorithm. SJ Live for the first time. I've done a few. Hey Laura, what's up? I've done a few lives in the past, through the years on my channel. It's just sometimes it's kind of time for another one. And I like lives. I like engaging with you all and just doing this in a way, because it's kind of there it is. We're right here together, and like it's different than recording and editing and all of that. It's just a different type of delivery. Let me see here. Big Wooly, thanks. Hey, what's up? Great to see you from Scotland there. Shout out to Scotland. Okay, let's keep going. And first time for you, Lily. Okay, cool. Yeah, and welcome. I'm glad you made it, and I'm glad to be here with you guys doing a live. Okay, let's keep shifting to this last parts of the themes. Actually, let me get to this one more question. Jen, hey, what's the best way to use the Mars-Jupiter energy now? Sorry if you answered this already. I've joined a little bit late. I'll come back to that because I'm about to talk about the Mars stuff, but I did answer it. When I publish this later with timestamps, just go to the section that talks about Jupiter stationing direct, because I went into some of that then. And the Mars energy, there's some slides here that are going to cover it. So look for that there. So okay, let's just keep pushing through. Next slide. So Mercury is going to enter Pisces and the sun enters Pisces. 14 February, there's the Valentine's Day date for this year. Mercury will enter Pisces that day. A little bit less clear communication. Maybe Valentine's Day, you're going to just write that love poem, or I don't know, send them a David Lynch link to watch Mulholland Drive. I don't know. That might scare away your targets. But anyhow, it's a poetry. It's the classic poetry energy. Mercury enters Pisces right on Valentine's Day, 12 UTC. So North America, you'll have that all day. Then the sun enters Pisces on the 18th of February. So by that 18th moment, you see we've got the first of two stelliums in Pisces. And these are traditional planet stelliums. And this one is Sun, Mercury, Saturn. And then you combine North Lunar Node and Neptune. Okay, we get a second Pisces stellium in March and April when Venus and Mercury have retrograded back into Pisces with Saturn, and they'll be there with Saturn. So it's just another piece of ephemeridal, data that tells us how important Pisces is continually this year. I mean, through April and into May, and so, that's that's just one big message here. Like all the themes I talked about earlier, the processing of the emotion, the healing, the integrating, the creative yearning for divine connection, all of that remains for a long, long time. It'll be coming out in, content. Everybody talking about astrology for these next few months. They're going to be talking about this continually because it's a theme that remains. So, okay. Yeah. And that was my note here. This is a long process of dreaming, yearning, and creating, and just embrace the process, the creative process. It takes time, to birth something. It can take decades for like a book to be written. Some people work on their novel for 20 years and then it's written and it's released in the world. Lynch, like his first picture, Eraserhead, or one of his first feature film, it was like 4 or 5 years, and he fought through the challenge and then produced it and made it. Okay. So, some more thoughts on Pisces. The reason why I'm doing this is that Pisces is so prominent in the ephemeris, as we've seen through this year, through these first several months. Contemplating the archetype is going to be highly fruitful, independent of everything else. Just what is the Pisces archetype? Let's contemplate it. This is Isabel Hickey, Astrology, a Cosmic Science, awesome astrologer, the classic work on spiritual astrology. Love this book. It's one of my go-to texts. It's like a dictionary because she has delineations for the signs and the planets, and it's always good to keep a few of these around. And I wouldn't exclude traditions. Pick one up from a tradition you're not practiced in. Pick one up from traditional astrology if you're more a evolutionary astrologer, or vice versa. But just find books of astrologers writing about the symbols, because most of the time they're going to give us something that can help us. And what I have here, I quote here, first of all, she says the key word is I believe. Sometimes belief isn't about fact, right? It's about we're trusting. I'm just going to believe. I trust. It's not about evidence, faith. What is it? Faith is the evidence of things unseen. I think that's a component here of Pisces. But this is the part I really wanted to quote. She has the fish swimming below the surface, uncertain of its destination. Okay. So there's this uncertainty idea. We're traveling, but we don't know where. And the ceaseless motion. Remember, Pisces is a mutable sign. And that's what I think often, going back to these themes of like emotional healing and facing things and walking through pain, the part of that can sometimes be tough is that we don't control the process. You don't control it. Healing, like grief, you don't control the grief process. It can come back. You think it's over, and then it comes back. Mercury and Venus retrograde this year in March. That's going to be stuff coming back and then going back into Pisces, both planets. I mean, we're going to have to return to this stuff. And so I think it's good to embrace the uncertainty of the destination. And I want to throw that here. It's great to be uncertain. Okay. We have North lunar node eclipses, 2 more left in Pisces, one in September this year, one in August next year. So that's going to be a theme with those eclipses still, even though Saturn will have moved out and these retrogrades aren't in Pisces, there's still going to be an element of this kind of embracing uncertainty by way of those eclipses, even in 2026. But it's really a peak here in the first part of this year. Okay. So just embrace it. Uncertainty can be good because it means that you're not foreclosing the gifts. You're not preventing the good stuff from being delivered. If you say, I don't know what's going to happen. As soon as you know, you delimit potential. Okay. And you see how that's linked to the Piscean concepts of joy and of optimism. Because an optimist will just be like, I just know it's going to be good. It's okay. And they're going to let the goodness come. You kind of give more avenues for the delivery of the gifts, the more you can embrace uncertainty. And that's a huge, huge theme. All right. Okay. Let's keep going here. Actually, I'll come to some of these comments. So Rose bought a new PC, drum pads and synth, going to make some music. Perfect for Pisces. I'm glad you mentioned music. Venus is the sweet singing. Venus rules Pisces by exaltation. Make that music. And music is nonverbal, right? It doesn't have to have lyrics. Even with lyrics, sometimes I don't even know what the lyricist is saying, but you feel the emotion and the singing of the voice and the timbre. And that's as much about what makes good music as the actual intellectual words. So, and often it's poetic. Someone like Bob Dylan, it's just these poetic tapestry of kind of poetic nonsense, but the feeling, and it really can evoke the power through that. So I love that you're getting into music with this Pisces activation. Long process of dreaming, yearning, creating. Yes, I feel this, but getting restless with this long curvy way forward. Yeah, and and that's okay. And this isn't it's like everything which is built in. I'm trying to articulate some of the kind of ways I see it that maybe can help us in more of a, I don't know, hopeful way. But certainly it's Mars and Saturn. Saturn and Pisces is going to be challenging, and especially if we're looking for the tangible, and we need that. Capricorn, as you mentioned here, that's an earth sign, so that's getting into the material, and off the objects around us. Pisces is the inner, the water sign. So there is a little bit of tension there, I think. So anyhow, this is all going to clear. That's why I'm focused on the opportunity of it, because we're not going to have anything in Pisces pretty soon. It's all over. The dream, the creativity, the healing, the depth of the self, that's all over. We're going to be into all different energies. And so I think we can use the opportunities here. So Alexis, thank you for this compliment. I really appreciate it. Okay, let me see here. Serendipity, any good advice or resources on astrology related dream symbolism? I have not seen a book on that. I would refer you to just dream symbolism books, because those are going to be the experts. And I don't even know if there's a crossover text, but go to those really trusted texts in the dream symbolism community. I bet there's a few. I don't know the literature very well, but I would start there if it were me. Okay, I'll quickly I'm just to work through a few of these, and then we'll go to the next slide. We're almost done. But faith is to believe what you do not see. The reward of faith is to see what you believe. So I like that. St. Augustine. Thanks for that. That's an inspiring quote. Susan, returning to a long poem I've been writing. Perfect. Mercury will enter. There's this on the 14th on Valentine's Day. That's going to supercharge your poetry. James Joyce, Mercury in Pisces. There's some other poets I forgot. I think Maya Angelou, Mercury in Pisces, if I recall. So it's great to get into your poetics in February here. Cy Harlot, hi neighbor, revolution taken to the streets by foot favorable with Pisces stellium. Okay, is that a song? Yeah. Great time to just get into your song, into your music. Okay, I'm going to come back to some of these. Let me just finish the slides out, because the questions are coming faster than I can answer them. Let's just do these slides, and then there's only a couple more, and then we'll be done, and then I'll hang out for some more questions. Okay, but 23rd of February, Mercury trines Mars, perfects the trine to Mars as Mars is stationing. 24th February, 2 a.m. UTC on the 24th, Mars actually stations direct. And so you see how this month Mercury triggers Jupiter as it's stationing direct, and then Mercury triggers Mars as it's stationing direct. Mercury is acting as the second layer of the trigger, and it's telling us just how important these direct stations are. And they're important in their own right, but to have other ephemeral confirmation, it just underscores that we can really get going here this month. I mean, just put simply, planet stationing direct, reinvigorate forward movement, and they offer a peak of inflection. And then they get slow, and then they get going. But I mean, the moment of a direct station is a blocks are removed moment and a real peak of intensity for the forward movement, even though it may take a little bit of time in the aftermath of that direct station. And so that's the theme of this month. I mean, that's just a high level theme. Jupiter stations direct on the 4th of February in Gemini, Mars stations direct on the 24th of February in Cancer. And now we get a sense of moving forward, a great sense of moving forward after February. Okay, let's keep going. And so here's back to the Mulholland Drive. This has kind of been a through line in this live, but this is one of the most famous scenes in the movie, and kind of one of the most famous scenes in cinema it's becoming. I mean, Mulholland Drive was listed as the best movie by critics, like on a bunch of lists that have come out in the last 5 years. It's kind of risen to the top of the art form in terms of how being like one of the best films that exists. But I throw this because as Mercury conjoins Saturn and then trines Mars, we can get poetical and symbolic expressions of the darkness, right, of the difficulty. And that's what this film is. This represents, there's a lot of theories, but it's like the bum is what this character is called. But it's like the kind of dark underbelly that we sometimes gloss over. Unless you integrate, the Jungian idea, integrating the shadow, you got to do it. If you don't do it, it's going to come out in ways that are toxic and harmful. And so that's why this malefic water trine earlier, I was saying, it's really an opportunity to see and bring awareness to some of the shadow parts of what we're carrying, our pain body, the challenge, or the difficulty. And I just love that this film didn't exclude that. In fact, it's a main piece of what's represented in this picture. So, okay, let me keep going. This is, I think, the final slide. I'll come into these questions in a second. Excuse me, but it all peaks here with the new moon in Pisces. So everything we've talked about, all live, Pisces, the creative, the pain of it, the dreamscape of it at the beginning, the yearning, the connection to the divine, the integrating, the emotional body. We then get a moment of refreshment with the luminaries meeting in Pisces, 28 February, last day of the month. And so you see how it's like we're working all month into the birth of some kind of new emotional component or a new level of our process here this part of the year, or for this whole Piscean dance. Really, there's a new injection of understanding. You may even start that with Saturn and Pisces, March 2023. It's building to like a moment like this new moon, and it is received by Jupiter, its domicile lord. Jupiter is received by its domicile lord, and they've paired off in a mutual reception. So the kind of surreal nonsense can combine with the data and the information, and we can kind of this is like having the right words to write the poem kind of thing. And maybe that poem is a perfect expression of, your truth. I think that's a big part of this moment. But just knowing that this new moon ends the month, and having I'm going to read this, having seen the depths and dug deep with our pain bodies and feeling natures, we can start again in 2025 with great power, emotional renewal, and acceptance. So first new moon after Jupiter is stationed direct, after Mars is stationed direct. This might be one where you want to kind of reset for the year with this new moon at the end of the month. And okay, this is my final slide, and then I'm going to come to questions. We'll hang out for another little bit, and then we'll go. But have a great month. You can find me here, subscribe to me, SJ Anderson 144 here. Patreon, same handle, SJ Anderson 144, and then Instagram, SJ Anderson 233. So you can find me there if you want to connect. And okay, let's come back up. I'm gonna read through some of these questions, and let me come back up where I stopped here. Okay, it's Layla. This Jungian life, they have a dream school to analyze dreams. Okay, perfect. So there's a resource about dreams. Thank you for sharing that. Another resource about dreams, Psychology and Alchemy, Carl Jung. Wonderful. We got some more Jung references in the house. Beautiful. Let me see here. Kunto, could you help me how to show up the outside ring of the chart in Solar Fire? I can't do that here, Kunto. I would go to Facebook. There's a Solar Fire group there that they help people with Solar Fire, and they help people edit the software. That's my best advice. I mean, I've had problems. I don't want to be on Facebook, but there's times when I've joined just to go to that group to answer questions. And I can't do it here, so I'm sorry about that. Let me see here. Damien, great to catch you live. Thanks for being here. Great to be with you. Let's see, Brian, hello, what's going on? I love writing epic poems. The last one I did was a kickoff Saturn and Pisces. Perfect. Wonderful for that. And Saturn in Pisces, epic, right? Long, takes time. That's Saturn. Pisces is the poetry. So, and there was the movie, The Return. I don't know if you guys got to see that. Amazing movie. Ralph Fiennes is just awesome as Odysseus. I mean, that one, I watched it twice. I'm not like back to back. I just put it back on. And there's a scene in that movie where Odysseus has returned. And if you know that, the poem, what is it? The Odyssey. And he's coming after the Trojan War. That's Saturn and Pisces, because it's about Saturn is ships, it's seafaring. Pisces is the sea. And Christopher Nolan it was announced during Saturn and Pisces, he's going to be adapting the Odyssey. So that's like, there's this whole thing during this transit of Saturn and Pisces of the story of the Odyssey, which is an epic poem, and the seafaring and the long journey of the unknown and the circuitous way that life takes us, in terms of our path and our fates. So beautiful. I love seeing that. Let's see here. Usually we answer our own questions anyway. Yeah. And it's good to answer, we have the answers sometimes if we can kind of dig deep, I think. Here's another reference column. Psychology and Alchemy. So there you go. I think someone said that. Here we go. Talitha tuned in late. So just hearing about Venus and Aries wake up call. Recently wrote a song called Woke, reclaiming the original meaning of the word. Awake, alert, and in tune with what's really going on. I love that. And I remember before that woke became what it is, back in like the aughts, it had a whole different meaning. And it was really one that didn't have the baggage, and it was being awake. Buddha, I go back to the original meeting that Buddha said, they said, the guy that found the Buddha after he was sitting under the bo tree and had his enlightenment experiences, the guy walks up and says, "What are you, a god? What are you?" And he goes, "No, I'm just awake." That was his answer. And so I think that's a beautiful way to think about the Piscean themes here this month, is just trying to, I think, waking up to our spiritual nature, and then we bring that into the Aries, and then we can kind of initiate in our outer world, having had a confrontation and an integration with the true nature of our, the vastness inside of us, the spiritual vastness. So that's beautiful. I love it. I wonder what Mulholland Drive looks like after the fires. Yeah, well, that was the whole thing. David Lynch's, I don't know if his house survived. I think it did, but he was definitely in the fires and had to, I think, relocate. And, so it's really devastating. And my heart goes out to anybody in LA or affected by that. I hope you're able to rebuild or figure out, a step forward there. But that was a really strange thing. And fires, he's got a Fire Walk with Me. He's got a film called, what is it? It is the one with Nick Cage, Wild at Heart. There's a lot of fire symbolism in that movie. There's a fire event that happens as a part of that plot. So it was really kind of a synchronistic thing. That's why I was saying earlier that he, kind of passed on right as this Piscean accentuation happens. And then now it triggers all of his creativity in the collective as we get to experience these Pisces transits. I think it was just a poetical, synchronistic thing. And I'm just really, thank you, David Lynch, man. Love you, David Lynch. Thank you so much. You've really showed us the way. So, okay. Thank you so much. Thanks, Jen. Okay. Answer a couple more of these, then we'll jam out of here. Okay. Accepting the pain body we usually deny is a long process. We spend so much time chasing our best selves, we forget to give love to us at our worst. Yep. And that's, Mars, Saturn, Cancer. Cancer is about the nurturing of Mars, nurturing ourselves. And I think I missed a slide, actually. Let me go back to that, because there was one here. It was, yeah, I didn't get into this. And this is the slide. You're reminding me here, Bodhisattva. Thank you. One final slide. This was the Mercury-Saturn conjunction on the 25th of February that comes the day after Mars's direct station and the 2 days after Mercury trines Mars. And I said that Mercury's poetical turn. So Mercury is the ability to communicate. And Mercury, wherever it is, will take on the nature of the planets that it's intermixing with. So it's like with Mercury in Pisces, we have ability to articulate somehow or express creatively the Saturn and Mars energies. And what are those stories? Mars is clarity of how to nurture our brood, right? As it's stationing direct. That's one of the positive ways this can manifest. It's action for the protection of the things around us we're nurturing, the things we're responsible for. That's our Cancerian duty, right? Protect our brood, protect the things we're fostering or nurturing. Mars stationing direct, we get to, do that maybe better, clarify how to more efficiently do that. And then Saturn is the depth of truth within the great oneness. And sometimes that includes our suffering, right? So I think your comment is very appropriate there of, loving ourselves at our worst, and we're kind of getting to move through that here and see some of the fruits of that, I think, here in February. Okay, let's keep going. I'm glad I went back to that slide because I glossed over that really fast. All right. Let's see here. What about the helicopter incident? I don't want to go into it. I just blessings to those folks. There's always stuff in the world, and every day there's accidents, and it sometimes can get a little bit tedious to try to astrologize it. But I'm sure if we pulled up some root charts and put our left brain mundane astrological hats on, we could kind of find charts to America or charts to, what was it, an Army helicopter, and but that's a longer research project. Okay, a couple more, then we're done. Let's see. I just wanted to put this. God bless. Thank you, Yumi. God bless. Real revolution happening in the moment, and this is a huge theme. All the outer planets change signs here in 2020 by 2026. It's definitely a time for major new assertions in our world, and all of the outer planets enter the so-called outer world signs or day signs or so-called masculine. So for sure, a time of revolution. I know this isn't February. What do you think about the double retrograde of Mercury Venus? I talked a lot about it in this video, not explicitly, but it was brought into a bunch of the themes. I have a whole video on my channel called It's Me in Vienna, and I'm standing with 3 in the thumbnail, and it's like the 3 most important transits of 2025. I talk about it in there some, so go find that video on my channel. And then I'll be talking about it as we get into those for sure. Saturn and Pisces natally feels like moving to Aries is very necessary. Yep, it's beautiful, and congrats on working through your Saturn return, almost there, threshold of maturity. And okay, final comment. Thanks, SJ. Happy to start my day here. Hey, happy to be with you, everyone. Okay, I'm going to close it there. Peace to everyone. Have a great February. Talk really soon. Okay, bye bye, y'all. Take care.